Welcome back. Hi, you guys. Um, this morning I was just recalling I had a counselor once who said, Eliza, you need to learn about good enough. You know, you're sort of a perfectionist and you drive yourself. And like when she first said it, I didn't know what she was talking about. The concept good enough. I mean, I really thought, what is that? Well, I've learned over the years, this was back in my, you know, 20 years ago when I was pretty spry, and I just didn't. Since then, I've learned the concept and kind of learned it the hard way. And the thing that's interesting about setbacks or trauma or, moments that really shake us to our core, in the aftermath, there's a real uptick in, something in your spirit opens up. That doesn't mean if you're young and fully able-bodied and all of that, you're not spiritual, but trauma, weirdly enough, somehow can open the door. Maybe because it forces the focus inward. I don't really know. The other thing was somebody in a comment said, talk about a no communication situation, no contact. And I think, again, no contact, it can actually spur or increase the volume on contact, with that other dimension, with that other realm, whatever you want to call it. It isn't as far away as we think. And Pema Chodron, who's one of my favorite, she's a Buddhist nun, and she has written a book called When Pain is the Doorway. And that's sort of the same idea, that even our worst experiences can be portals to something bigger. The subtle energies of the psyche, of the wa, of spirit. I've got one on the table, but let's see what oh wow, 9 of Swords. That's the injury. 9 of Swords is anxiety, worry. It's being up in your head. It's not being able to understand sword energy. It's feeling defeated. It's almost like a post-traumatic stress, because this is a card of stress. And it's not something that's happening in the moment. It's something that has happened in traditional Rider-Waite. It shows the person waking up, in bed, waking up, it's as if from a nightmare state. And see, we don't have the bed here, but we have the pillow. It's not waking up in that spiritual sense of, a Buddha is the enlightened one, is the one who woke up. This is kind of being plagued by insecurities. So we'll see what was the card that was on the table. 10 of Swords. It's somebody moving on from a painful cycle. 9 of Swords to the 10 of Swords. Here they are, kind of frozen in fear and anxiety. And most 10 of Swords in most decks are really painful. This isn't painful. This is the end of a up in your head bad cycle. There's some kind of resolution that has happened that allows us to move forward. When pain is the doorway. Yeah, somebody was asking about no contact. And I think Sometimes I kind of cornered a friend of mine who happens to be a man and said, "What is it with you guys?" Like I was expecting him to speak for his whole gender. And I said, "Why don't you talk? What is the matter with you?" And he said, "It's not as if we're withholding something that we know and aren't going to tell you about it. We don't know. We don't know what we feel. We don't know how to put it into words. Sword energy, knowledge, articulation, speech, understanding." And he was saying this is a 9 card, we don't understand ourselves. How can we tell you about it? So no contact sometimes means the person just doesn't know how to talk. Or for some reason they're withholding speech, or they're saying, "I don't understand." But there is an end of a cycle here, which bodes well. 7 of Pentacles. Oh, and somebody else said, hold the cards up long enough so that we can see them. I try to, and so do other readers. Some readers never show the cards at all. It's always a good reminder to pay attention to that, but sometimes I'm just paying attention to the reading. This is a card of investment, growth, Pentacles energy, growth, being grounded, being patient. Not this. That's agitation. That's, I can't think straight. Pentacles are a slow energy. It's like slow down, give yourself time. This has got an enormous root system. What's visible above ground is relatively small, but the roots are lit up with, there's a lot of possibility here. Time and effort not wasted. And it's kind of waiting this out. When you're up in your head and afraid, you can close out that cycle by slowing down, by waiting for something to, what are we waiting for? 2 of Wands. A decision about which way to go. Wands energy is both do-it energy and directional energy. And it's, Wands are intuitive. It's not being up in your head. It's taking the time to figure out a choice, a decision. There's a portal here. And you see in the foreground, there's a picture of a VW bus and a globe. It's a consideration, not with the head, but with intuition. Which way do I go? What's the path? Maybe now that I've wrapped up a cycle, and I've waited long enough to calm down and get grounded, and it may have taken a long time, Pentacles, I'm now in a position to pick a path. Oof. Devil energy. What holds us back? Capricorn energy. It's earth energy, like 7 of Pentacles. But this can be what keeps us stuck in a relationship or in a place. It's also a card of fear sometimes. Fear is the mind killer. I think that's from Dune. Fear is the mind killer. Sword energy, the mind. So I see this card, my take on Capricorn is a little different. Capricorn is a hard-working energy. It's earth energy. It's about digging in. and freeing ourselves from this sort of puppet, being on the strings of something, being manipulated by something in our psyche that says, don't grow, don't move, stay stuck, stay safe. Well, this is about growth in 3D. It's the psyche, it's the mind, it's something internal that's holding us back. And it could be that business of waiting for somebody to talk to us. And at a certain point, to turn our back on that and just move on could be the wise thing to do. This is how we free ourselves. Next out, under 7 of Pentacles, is Page of Pentacles. That's a fresh start, a new beginning, a little offer of something real, a starting point. New growth. This is a little bit old growth, or growth that's been carried on long enough to establish this root system. And in a funny way, this is root system too. It's root chakra energy. It's what grounds us, but maybe to the extent that it actually keeps us stuck. Okay, on this choice, 2 of Wands, Hermit. Card of Virgo, more earth energy. This can be a card of consideration, inner wisdom, withdrawal to find out from the inside. The 9 card speaks to the individual. If you're in this state, agitated, not knowing, fearful, this is a card of going inside to get grounded, to get an understanding of yourself. What makes me so up in my head and afraid? What am I afraid of? That the other person won't talk to me? They might not have the answer. They might not legit know. I think sometimes, assuming this is a male individual, they've spent a lifetime being trained up in don't look inside. It's all about outside, action. That's the masculine yang energy. And, there's a great emphasis on bottling up your feelings and not talking about them. So when we ask the dude to talk, it's putting them against some sort of grain. How do you break out of that role, or that, being held back by fear? Or tell us about the new beginning. Wow. Another major arcana card. Another earth energy card. This is a card of Taurus. Hierophant. Higher power. Hierarchy. There's this ascendant quality to this. It's what taps us in to our inner self. It's the beginning point. I had a wonderful teacher when I was in college. It was a philosophy class, and I was drawn to it because it was called mysticism, and I can't remember the full name, but it was like the philosophy of mysticism or something like that. And one of the things he said in the last class was, you need to start where you are. And he said this culture, doesn't lend itself to an understanding of mysticism. I think we've come a long way since the 60s, which is when this guy was giving his course. The book that he'd written was called The Other Dimension. But his point was, start where you are. Don't think you're not enough now. Like that counselor said to me, you're good enough. This effort is good enough. This effort to free yourself is good enough. You've got to start somewhere. And what it does is allow you to tap in 3D energy to the inner self, which is beyond the personal self. There's something about that deeply inner place that's very connective to spirit and to everybody else who's trying to do the same thing or is stuck not doing the same thing. Let's see about the Nine of Swords. Six of Wands. That's an energy of victory, of accepting the light, of accepting your position, as a leader, as a winner. It's knowing yourself. It's allowing yourself to be seen. Wands energy is fire energy. It's bright. And this person is lit up. To be seen and to be heard. There's the mic. There was a terrible expression when I was growing up. Children are to be seen and not heard. Shut your trap. Let the adults speak. Shut your trap, that question of communication. This may have been something that whoever it is who's not communicating, and it could be you. I think it's the other person. It may have been something they learned way back, that enculturated aspect of hide your feelings, don't talk about your feelings. You can be seen, you can be active, but don't look inward and don't talk about it. This is Knight of Wands, more fire energy. It's kind of a release, a passionate release of life force, Wands energy. And I just wanted to say, I don't think I've said it already, I was watching a BritBox series last night, and one of the characters, a man, had cancer, and they gave him, I think it was testicular cancer or something like that. They gave him a feminizing drug, and it cut back on his testosterone, and the doctor giving it to him said, there will be changes. You might grow breasts, this might happen, that might happen, and one of the things that might happen is you'll cry more. It'll put you in touch with your feelings. We don't have any Cups energy on the board yet. Cups energy are about feelings. They're considered a feminine energy. Not a feminine, it's not like an attribute that men don't share. But they're enculturated to, hide it, put it into the dark. It's shadow, it's a part of yourself you don't want to acknowledge. Seven of Swords. A lot of air energy here, troubling air energy. Well, Nine of Swords, 10 of Swords, 7 of Swords. This is somebody sneaking away. Maybe a card of strategy. And again, this business of sword energy is about speech. The messenger birds are sounding the alarm. This person is, the hood is up. They're exiting, trying not to be understood or known or seen, not speaking about it. But there's some kind of alarm or tripwire or something like that. And there isn't a great intent here because the person has a sword. It's conceivable it could be a sword to cut the puppet strings, to free themselves from some kind of cultural prison that says don't talk. Just leave a situation with no explanation. And that's what this person might have done. It might have been the only way they knew how to do it. sword energy, the only way they knew. Oh, wow. Also an air energy, sword energy, lovers. Card of Gemini. A card of the twins, the yin and the yang, the two pieces that put together complete each other. Now, the only way this kind of relationship works is if each party is whole going into it. So it's interdependence. It's not codependence. It's like we can mesh, we can recognize each other, but if we're not whole by ourselves, this becomes codependent. This becomes this. Devil is sort of the inverse of lovers. You know, in Rider-Waite, that most traditional tarot deck, one shows the two people chained to the pedestal, devil card, with the big, beast that has them chained up, stuck. And the Lover's card, in traditional Rider-Waite, shows the two people basically entering the world, out of Eden into a 3D existence. It could be somebody snuck away from that. But this is the major arcana, the stronger of the two. So what's going on with Seven of Swords lovers? I mean, this is a 6 in major arcana. This is a 7 in minor arcana. I don't really know what that's about. And it looks like this one on the board is walking toward lovers. Yeah, I don't know. Can you tell us more about this dynamic? Is it this? High Priestess. Divine feminine energy of intuition. Not of all this sword energy brain stuff. Not every sword energy on the board is negative. This is sort of like the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, the on and the, not the off, but a different way of dealing with the energies we all share. And sometimes we're in active mode, masculine energy. We have to be able to do things in the world and be confident in our psyches. And the feminine mode, the receptive mode, being open to the other person. And these guys are only apparent opposites, the dark and the light, the male and the female. Could easily be a same-sex relationship. Gender in tarot is really not a thing. But here it's divine feminine. Head chakra wide open. Open to the energies of the universe. They're coming right into this person. And if you can see, the eyes are both shut and open. It's sort of inner vision. Swords can be about perception. This is somebody who's wide open. A seer, a mystic. I think divine feminine is very much in their power. Hermit, high priestess. And maybe has fought to free themselves. That's my interpretation of the devil card. Somebody who's worked hard to free themselves. And that can even be compatible with this. Strategizing how to get away. How to, with that knife, cut the cords of the puppet in order to form that kind of bond, lovers. And maybe I'm bending it, maybe I'm giving it too positive a slant, which sometimes I think I'm inclined to do. Lean toward the light, This is 6 in minor arcana. Lovers is 6 in Major Arcana. Something's been accomplished, Wands energy, successfully. Here the mic is on fire. Wands energy. The light is on. The flames are going full bore. In Sword energy, this can be a card of recognition, understanding. It's a card of choice, choosing each other, choosing to be balanced internally. I think we have to get a couple more. Well, yeah. 3 of Wands, a card of the future. In that fire energy, what's coming into me? What have I manifested? Star card. Another sword energy, air energy. Card of Aquarius. Card of connection to the divine. It's very different from the puppet strings. It's sort of once we free ourselves. Remember I said, from the trauma or whatever, it opens us up. It opens up our intuition. It opens us up to our guides. It opens us up to manifesting something healing. Healing this thing, whatever it is. It could be an addiction. That cycle is over. Star is also a card of the collective. And I don't think it's just us here. It's like everybody has this capability. But it is a choice. It is a choice. To choose to understand, to choose to go inside and understand yourself. And by doing that, you can do this. From the card of the individual to the card of the two. One more. Is it this one? Four of Wands. A card of joy and celebration. Meeting up with somebody else. To do the dance. To cut loose. To celebrate. To feel free. To feel free. To meet up with somebody else. To cut the chains that bind us. To cut the puppet strings. To get unstuck. To work with shadow. To end some kind of screwed up cycle. And move on. Wands are cards of movement. And this is sort of like moving into joy. Fancy free. Improv. It's not like a dance that's got strict rules. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. This is like shake your tambourine. There's a song. Gonna shake my tambourine. I can't remember what it is. Okay, and one more. There's a card of justice. We have wonderful sword energy now. A card of Libra. Balance. In relationships. Balance in relationships. Libra, Gemini, Aquarius, all 3 major arcana cards of sword energy. I don't know how that applies to the specific relationship you might be thinking about, sword energy, thinking about, but I think there's a real invitation here to move out of the fear, to let go of that constricted place. In the best way to connect with higher power. Higher power through some kind of liberation. And in 3D, it just brings joy. That might be the litmus test. You know, does this person make me happy? Is it good enough? We have on the board Cancer, Pisces in High Priestess, Gemini in the Lovers, Virgo in Hermit, Libra in Justice, Capricorn in the Devil, Aquarius in the Star, Taurus in Hierophant. A lot of major arcana here. I mean, we pulled a lot of cards. Even so, this is a powerful reading about liberation and joy. I'll see you next time.